Super good. All right, my name is Josh Long. I work on the Spring team. I am a Spring developer advocate, a Java champion, a Kotlin Google developer expert in Kotlin, and Microsoft MVP. And yes, that last one surprises me more than anybody. I cannot believe. I have no idea why, but I'll take it. Okay. I have the privilege of being a small part of a team of people that run this YouTube channel called Coffee and Software. You can find me there. I'm very online, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Who's using LinkedIn? LinkedIn, good stuff. Find me there, okay? Come on, find me there. It's good. It's good. It's nice. We're gonna go through a lot of code. That code is here for your own reference. There's nothing there yet, obviously, but I'll check in all the stuff that we write in the next 40 minutes and put it there. What about email? How many of you are using email? Email. Anybody? No, good, moving on. And then there's this tire fire. You can ignore that place. So now, what I want to do is to build an application and take advantage of all the latest and greatest in the wonderful and wild Spring Boot 4 ecosystem. This month, November, later this month, we released the new generation of Spring Boot 4.0. And with it will come Spring Framework 7 and Spring Security 7 and all the new Spring integration and Spring Data and Spring Batch and Spring everything. All these new modules will come with it. Now, obviously, there are a few so-called post-boot projects like Spring AI, about which I spoke yesterday with my buddy James Ward. We have Spring Cloud, Spring modularity, etc. But basically, most of the important projects, in Spring Boot and below will come later this month, followed pretty quickly thereafter by these other 3 post-boot projects. So what we're going to do today is just take a look at some of the latest and greatest in the wonderful wild world of Spring in terms of Spring Modular, Spring Boot, and Spring Framework and all that stuff, and looking at some of the new features. Now, friends, as always, I struggle with this. I struggle with how we're going to do this. Now, I love the idea of a sample domain that involves pets, right? I love pets, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. How many of you were unfortunate enough to be in my talk yesterday? Okay, the rest of you, good. Let's talk about this. I want to have something on which to build a sample application that we can relate to. And by the way, I just realized, can we do a selfie? Let's do a selfie. It'll be fun. Okay, just pretend like you're happy. Okay. Oh, so good. So good. So good. Okay. Everybody just, okay, ready, steady, say open source. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I take these selfies whenever I can, and people ask, like, what do you do with those selfies, Josh? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that selfie, I'm going to take it, I'm going to show it to my daughter, and I'll say, see, they listen to me. So anyway, I want to have a sample domain, and the application will be something that I can relate to. And obviously, we have in the Spring ecosystem, we have the Spring Pet Clinic. This is a sample application that is based it's like 20 years ago, right? This is an old example here. And there's a whole bunch of different implementations. You can even find a GitHub organization based on it, right? So here we go, and then that, and Spring Pet Clinic, and here you go. You've got this different implementations, and I like pets. I like animals. I like dogs and cats and all that. And I'm a big fan of all sorts of animals, except my dog. My dog is the worst. Not a good boy. Okay, not a good dog at all. We keep him for 3 very simple reasons. The first is that even terrible dogs deserve loving homes. 1. 2 is ego. In my home, my daughter and my partner both speak 5 languages. I, 3.5. If we didn't have that stupid dog, I'd be the stupidest in the house. It will not stand, okay? So we keep the dog for that reason. And then, of course, very, very simply, it is that he is very, 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 very cute. Okay, there he is. That's Peanut. That's Peanut the dog. And again, he's very cute, but evil. Pure malevolence, okay? And I think about him all the time, and I think about another dog about which I learned during the pandemic named Prancer. Now, Prancer's owner was trying to find a new house for this dog to live in because this dog is also just as spicy a dog as my dog, Peanut. So this woman, she tried to find a new home. She describes this dog rather hilariously. She says, okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption to make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I am tired and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape he has created in our home, right? This dog is a spicy dog indeed. And she continues on, and she says, I'm convinced at this point that he's not a real dog, but more like a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child that now haunts our home. She continues and warns, Prancer wants to be your only child. She says, I know finding someone who wants a Chucky doll in a dog's body is hard, but I have to try. And then she signs off and says, oh, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. So take that into account if you're interested. And boy, who wouldn't be, right? This sounds like quite the dog. And very cute as well. Super cute. I would totally pet this dog. And a lot of other people would as well. This dog went viral, right? Like this is People magazine talking about this dog. And here's USA Today, a newspaper in the US. Demonic Chihuahua hellscape, meet Prancer, the puppy everyone wants after a brutally honest Facebook review. Here's BuzzFeed News talking about how we cut up with Prancer, the viral nightmare Chihuahua. And then here is the New York Times, right? In the New York Times, Prancer, the demonic Chihuahua, finds a home, right? I can't even, it's pointless. Anyway, all that to say, the dog did eventually get adopted, but I want to build a service so that we can adopt terrible, terrible dogs ourselves, right? And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go to my second favorite place on the internet. My first favorite place, of course, is and always has been production. I love production. You should love production. You should go as early and often as possible. Bring the kids, bring the family. The weather's amazing. It's the happiest place on earth. It's better than Disneyland. But if you've never been, then you can begin your journey here at start.spring.io. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build a new service. We're going to use the latest and greatest Spring Boot release, obviously. We're going to call this adoptions because, again, I'm great with names. We're going to use Java 25. Again, who's using Java 25? Java 25. Okay, the rest of you are wrong. It's very sad to know that, but it is true. Look, we have 3 versions of Java here, Java 25, 21, and 17. The only valid choice among these 3 is Java 25, okay? These other ones, again, we just keep these here just to know who makes terrible life decisions. Now, from a perspective of Spring Boot 4 and Spring Framework 7, you can use technically Java 17, but we strongly recommend a Java 25 posture, okay? That's the baseline we encourage you to be at. We can support Java 17, we just don't want to, right? We will, but we don't want to. Don't make us. And when it comes to GraalVM, we are lifting the baseline for GraalVM 25, okay, for native images. So again, we're strongly encouraging you to be at that. Now, let's go ahead and bring in Spring Modular. We'll bring in the web support. We're going to bring in the GraalVM native image support. We're going to bring in Spring Data JDBC. We're going to bring in the Postgres driver. We're going to bring in the HTTP client support. So this is already a interesting insight from the new refactoring that we've done in Spring Boot 4. Historically, we had one giant monolithic auto configuration jar. All the code, all the auto configuration in the entire Spring Boot project lived in one jar. And if you added a starter, that starter transitively brought in other dependencies which lit up certain configuration classes. It activated certain configuration classes in this one giant monolithic thing. Unfortunately, it's very hard for us to get clear signals because of this, right? For example, let's say you wanted to build an application that used the Spring Framework REST client to call a web service. But you didn't want to build a web server yourself. You're doing something with Kafka in the back end or Spring Integration or Spring Batch or whatever, right? You don't want to be a web service, but you want to call other web services. These are 2 different things. But because of the arrangement of the code before, it wasn't clear how to separate these things. Well, now, because we've modularized all the different auto configurations, first of all, things should start up a little bit faster and they compile a little bit more quickly. And also, we have more clear signals about your intent. So I now have a Spring Boot Starter REST client, right? That's this new starter here that gives you guessed it, client, right? Similarly, for the web stuff, we've renamed it Spring Boot Starter Web MVC, not just Spring Boot Starter Web, okay? That kind of lines up with Spring Boot Starter Web Flex. Okay, the other thing you might have noticed on the start.spring.io is we have this thing right here, and I hate YAML, so don't choose that, okay? Let's see, Modular, Web, GraalVM, Spring Data JDBC, Postgres, HTTP client. I feel like, security, I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, here we go, hit generate. Okay, and the goal here is to write an application as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I'm going to connect to a database that is running on my local machine in the background there. So let's configure it. Oh, it's loading. There you go. JDBC, Postgres, QL, localhost, my database. Okay, and then we'll have a username. and we'll say my user, and then we'll say password is secret. Okay, so there's my database connection. Let me just go ahead and validate that that's worked. I can click on that, click test, click apply, click OK, go over here, refresh the thing, go down there, drill down. You can see I've got a table called dog, and if I click on the table called dog, there's our dogs, and there's our buddy Prancer. His ID is 45, his name is Prancer, and he's described as a demonic, neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dog that looks like a gremlin, and surprising to everyone, no owner. What's that about? So we're going to build an application to sort of adopt this dog, but obviously, the large expense, the most significant part of the expense of maintaining software is exactly that. It's the maintenance of that software. So I want to write my code in a maintainable, sustainable way using Spring Modular. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new root package or a module in Spring Modular, okay? And there I'm going to create a new class. Notice that I used IntelliJ, I created a new class, and it gave me this word. Why is that there, right? The public keyword is not a good idea. Remember, this is Java. Java is an object-oriented language. It gives us information hiding. This is a valuable feature. We shouldn't just throw it out the window. I don't know why everything in IntelliJ defaults to public, but it's a bad default, right? Java defaults to package private. You have to go out of your way to add the word public, right? Public means that anybody can depend upon it, which means that anybody can create a dependency on it that you now have to maintain. This means that as the code base grows, you now need to negotiate with everybody in the organization whenever you want to refactor something upon which they may need to depend, right? Don't do that. Don't let it be possible for that to happen. Reduce the surface area of your APIs. Reduce the blast radius of change, okay? So whenever possible, prefer package private. So I'm going to create an adoptions controller here, okay? And it'll be a HTTP REST controller. And in there, I'm going to need to talk to my database. So let's create a Spring Data JDBC repository, okay? Extends list of CRUD repository, managing entities of type dog. And I'll describe that dog here using Java records. I love Java records, right? I'm just going to create a little record here to describe the relationship of the dog in the database. And of course, I'll give this a primary key. And like I said, I'm just a huge fan of Java records. Who is using Java records, huh? Anybody here using Java records? It's so good, it's so good. I can't even imagine going back to the old way. So now, the other thing you might have noticed is already we've got a new feature as well. Well, sort of. Notice that this is yellow. It says non-null type argument is expected. We have created these new annotations. We have worked with Google and with JetBrains and with Gradle and with all these different industry consortiums. I tried to merge the two words together. Industry consortiums to create a de facto set of annotations that mark or denote nullability. Okay, nullability tells you when you can and cannot pass a null reference, okay? So other languages like Kotlin and Swift and all these other modern languages have this built in. And in theory, Java will have it one day as well with Project Valhalla. Don't ask us when that's coming, though. Who knows, right? And so in the meantime, this is a very important thing. So we added this, but this feature only works if you have end-to-end validation. So now, inside of IntelliJ, if you are using a thing and you're using it in such a way that you can pass a null, you'll at the very least get a yellow feedback saying, hey, don't do that. If you add null away, like a build tool, you'll actually get errors, compiler errors, right? And so this is very good. You now get compile time and runtime sort of detection of these nullable reference checks, right? So I'm going to say, no, that's actually not meant to be null, okay? Better, everything's happy now. And okay, so let's create the controller. We're going to have a service as well. So I'll say class adoptions service, and we'll create a regular service at transactional. And here I'll say void adopt int dog ID. Okay, and we're going to update the owner field of the dog. Okay, and so we'll inject the dog repository there into the constructor, like so. And down here, I'm just going to do this, the obvious thing. I'll say find the record if it exists, and if it exists, we're going to update it, right? So get the dog, and I'm going to create an updated dog, and we'll say new dog. Nope, not that, dog.id. And what is this field? It's dog.name, dog.description. And the owner itself, of course, will take not from the existing one, but from the new reference there. And we're going to save it. We'll say this dog repository.save, like that. Ooh. Okay, and we can print out the results. We can say adopted, updated. Okay, right, good. And I think that's enough. That's already good. Let's now use that new method that we just created from our newly minted controller. We'll create a new endpoint here, dogs, dog ID, adoptions, okay, void adopt, int dog ID, and owner. And again, we're just going to call the adoptions service here, adoptions service, okay, adopt. There you go. And so now I've called the adoption service, and it's going to delegate. And, you know, one thing I should do, and by the way, if you walk out of this talk right now, and this is the last thing you see, please understand, I'm going to re-enable the security module in a bit, okay? I did not remove security. You should not walk away thinking, Josh removed security, therefore I should too. I'm just going to remove it for now. Okay, so I've got my HTTP controller. It's calling the service. The service is using the repository. All that is very good. Let's go ahead and restart the application. Let's see what that's bought us. So I want to say 8080 dogs 45 adoptions. Owner will be Josh. Okay, and I'll do a post. Voila. Uh-oh. Sad. So sad. Oh, what did I do? Oh, here, yeah, sorry. I didn't tell it how to map. Okay, request param. Go over here, take 502. Hello, there you go. So now it says adopted, dog, 45, name Prancer, demonic, owner is Josh. And we can confirm as much here by going to the dog table, scrolling down, and sure as can be, there it is, okay? So we've done it. We've actually adopted this dog. It's working fine. We're modular. We did good. But is that really it? Is that really good? I don't know if that's true, right? It doesn't feel like that is. For example, in most jurisdictions, if you want to take possession of a live animal, you have to make sure that the dog sees a doctor. So let's go create a new module here called vet. And a vet, of course, is a veterinarian, which is like it's a doctor for the dogs. So we shall call this class DOGtour, okay? And at service, at transactional, public void check up, int dog ID. And we're just going to say io.println checking up on this dog, okay? Now I can use this newly minted service. I can go back to my adoptions over here. And in my adopt method, I can add a new method. I can say DOGtour dot adopt checkup and then pass in the dog.id. And if I restart this and go here, you can see it says checking up on dog ID. So that works. But again, I don't know if I like that. You know, I don't think I actually even need this dependency, right? This is a dependency that I've created now. I've injected this collaborating object from another root module. So I'm actually creating a public type, and they're being shared one from the other. And, you know, I don't even necessarily need that dependency. You know how I know that I don't need that dependency? I don't care about the result. It's a void. It has to happen, but it's not really a dependency of mine. And remember, at all times, we want to reduce the surface area of change, and we also want to avoid having too many collaborating dependencies in our types, right? So I'm going to back this change out, because if I don't care about the return type, it's probably a sign that I don't actually need to worry about this. I do need that to happen, but it's not a thing upon which I depend to do my job. It's another concern. So another way to do this would be to go and use event-driven architecture, messaging, right? And Spring actually has an event bus in the Spring Framework context. So I'll create a new public type. This is our first intentionally public type that we've looked at so far, okay? And here I will, okay, I'll say int dog ID. And by the way, friends, I'm going a little bit slower today, and I'll tell you, the reason is because I've undertaken a spiritual journey. Okay, I'm learning Vim motions, and this has been a little bit awkward for me because I'm like hunting and pecking. I don't know what I'm doing, and it's very, very awkward because, for example, spring.io, spring.io.net, I think. Spring El Rapido. This one. Okay, this is Anton Arhipov. He's a JetBrains developer advocate. JetBrains, of course, is the company that makes IntelliJ IDEA. And he did a presentation at this conference in Barcelona called El Rapido, coding like Josh Long, because I'm usually pretty quick. But now I'm doing the Vim motions, so I am not coding like Josh Long, which is very awkward, right? Very, very, very awkward. He could not have picked a worse year for this talk to come out. So anyway, we're back here. I need to publish this event from one context to another, and I'm going to do that by using the application event publisher. I'll say application event publisher, and I'll publish the event, new dog adopted event, passing in the dog ID, okay? And what I want to do is I want to listen for that event back in the DOGtour module, in the DOGtour service. So I can make this no longer public, and I can use @event listener, and I'll make this dog adopted event, okay? Everything else is the same. It's just an event listener now. Okay, get rid of that. It's just an event listener in a different package, but it's not public, so neither side knows about each other. And if I post, we get the same result, right? One thing got invoked after the other, and everything is being handled correctly. It's like very hard to get everything's so cluttered on the screen here. Okay. I think that's working well. We're decoupled, at least it feels like it is, because we're not reliant or aware of each other. But are we truly decoupled? I mean, let's suppose I go back to the dog tour here, and I say thread .sleep 5000, right? Throws exception, and then I reload and go here, post, and you can see that even though I hit enter, it's taking 5 seconds to return. So I called the adoptions endpoint, but the vet module is taking time and it's blocking my progress on the adoptions module. So I'm decoupled in that they don't know about each other, but I am technically temporally coupled. They know about each other in time. They have to perform in the same time. And what's happening is that event is getting dispatched in the same thread, which is good if you have like transactional state, but it's bad because now they're temporally coupled. I can decouple them by using @async, right? I can put these on a separate thread, but now I've lost the transaction, right? So if I have something that I want to roll back in the second thing, it's not going to roll back the right in the first thing. So go back over here. It returns immediately, which is nice, and eventually you'll see that as well, and then the 5 seconds will continue and so on. So that's better, but I want transactional state, or at least I want to guarantee that things will get taken care of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this application module listener, okay? And I'll use application module listener. This is from Spring Modulith. It's runtime infrastructure to support the work of decoupling our code. So I'm going to tell it to enable a table here for event dispatch, okay? So if I go over here, refresh, you can see there's a new table called event publication. If I go over here now, post, refresh, you can see that it's published the ID, the listener ID, which is dogtour.checkup, the event type, the serialized representation of the state, publication date, and after 5 seconds, the completion date, okay? That table is a transactional log of something that I want to reconcile later on, even though that thing is not itself transactional. Publishing an event from one thread to another in the same JVM is not transactional. Writing a file to an S3 bucket is not transactional, right? Working with FTP, all these things are not transactional, but I can reconcile these non-transactional things by using a transactional ledger here, okay? This is called the outbox pattern. So Spring Modulith is keeping track of all the missed messages and all that stuff. So let's try it again, refresh. And you can see it says processing, and there's a state machine there, and there's a completion date, which is not yet set. So what if I wanted to republish the missed messages? Well, I could easily do that. For example, I could go over here, I could create a Spring Bean application runner, and I could say inject the incomplete event publications, and I could republish any missed events. So I can say event publications dot resubmit, and I'll just say true for all of them. Okay, so now I get the ability to republish missed events on restart. Okay, so let's try this again. Oops, aha. Nice feature of Java there. Okay, do that again, and you can see I've got a null there. Let's refresh. Okay, null again, but this time I'm going to stop the process. Okay, so it's still null, and I've just stopped the program. Let's restart the program now, and we'll see that it's going to actually reprocess the missed messages. So I get eventual consistency. I get the best of both worlds, okay? So eventually, you'll see it says checking up on dog adopted event, and if I go over here, refresh, after 5 seconds, there we go. So now we've got the best of both worlds. We've got asynchronous decoupling, but we've also got eventual consistency thanks to Spring Modulith. So I think I've done a pretty good job here. My code is decoupled, but how do I know if it's decoupled? Well, of course, I can go here and write a test, right? So var am application modules .of, and I can say adoptions application.class, am.verify. I can even document this, right, like that. I can print out the modules like this. Let's go ahead and run that test and confirm. And the test is green. You can see that the test is green. We like that. You can see that Spring Modulith knows about the logical relationship of these two different things. That's nice as well. And, of course, if I go over here, I've got a target directory. And you can see Spring Modulith docs. Click on that, and you get a plant UML C4 architecture diagram showing me the relationship of these components in the architecture, which is nice. right? Very different from the status quo where you have some well-intentioned architect that has checked in some documentation from 2 years ago that has long since diverged from the actual runtime state of the system in production today. So, okay, very good. I've got modular code. Let's suppose now that we want to have, we need to look at and work with cats as well. We can't just do dogs. So let's create a new package here called cats, and maybe you want to build a controller for cat facts. Okay, I'll build a controller here, and it'll be a simple HTTP controller, response body. Now to build this client, I want to call a service and use that service to produce facts. So I'll create a cat facts client here at get exchange. I'll say a collection of, and I'm going to create a DTO here to hold the cat facts, and it'll be a collection of cat fact object. Okay. And that object will then be a cat fact, and it'll have a single attribute here called, guess what, fact, okay? So a DTO, an interface, cat, I guess it's just actually the cat facts, isn't it? There we go, facts. And what's going to happen when you call this client? Well, I could implement it, I could use the REST client, but Spring Framework 7 has a nice feature. Actually, it was born in Spring Framework 6, but it has a nice feature where I can say get exchange, and then I can do HTTPS www.catfacts.net API. I think that's right. Let's try it out. Okay. Paste. There you go, right? So I'm going to use that endpoint there, and I want to turn this interface into an implementation. I can easily do that here. Like I can actually add import HTTP services. There we go. Okay. Or you could put that in a config class, more likely. And let's just create a new endpoint now. Facts, right? Cats. Facts, collection, and I can do a collection cat fact, and I'll inject the interface that we've just created, okay? Private, there you go. And this .catfacts client little silly, there you go, okay? Here we go, oop, wrong one. I want the service to restart, okay? So now, if I go to localhost, what did we call it? Cats, we called it cats and facts, okay? Okay, there we go. So our endpoint now has the data being called from this remote service, and it was very easy for us to build that client. That's a new feature in Spring Framework 7. Now, of course, the service is working great right now, which is actually really nice. I don't take that for granted. I'm on stage. By law, that service has to fail when I'm on stage, right? But that's not always going to be the case. You know, the unthinkable just happened a few weeks ago or a week ago. US East 1 went down, right? That never goes down, like ever, and it did. It was, like if that can go down, it's a gentle reminder to all of us that anything can go down at any time, and we should write our code to handle these failures a little bit more gracefully. In Spring Framework 7, we've got the ability to handle resilient methods, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add enable resilient methods, and I can now wrap this code here. I can say retryable, okay? So let's imagine I've got some, I'm going to induce some errors here. I'll say atomic integer counter, okay, and I'll go over here, and I'll say if counter dot whatever, and I'll say if it's less than 4, we're going to throw an exception, okay? Throw new illegal state exception, oops, okay? And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that we allow max attempts equals 5, right? Or 4, actually, I think that'll be fine as well. So we're going to say, and we want to include, for example, the illegal state exception. Okay, dot class. So let's try that, reload. So now I call this endpoint here in the browser, and you can see, oh, I didn't actually print out anything, did I? Let me try that again. Whoop. Okay, and then, yay. Okay, take 5. So you can see it's taking a lot longer this time. On the console, you'll see yay, oops, 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 yay, right? So it retried that failing method, and it made sure that we eventually got a result. And you can set it to wait progressively longer amounts for the back-off period and so on. Another thing that's nice in Spring Framework 7 is we have this concurrency limit. So let's say you have some slow downstream service that's very, very fragile and might fall over, right? Like anything in PHP ever, for example, right? I want to make sure that that software doesn't get oversaturated. So I can limit the number of concurrent threads that enter this block by using @concurrency limit, so that it in turn can't make too many requests to the downstream thing, for example. So this is really nice. I have the ability to, get more robust code. Now, all this time, as we've been working on all this stuff, I have been using Java configuration. You saw me create this bean here as a bean method. One of the nice things that's nice in Spring Framework 7, I like Java configuration, and we've also been using component scanning, right? You saw me do that with the controller, for example. I went over here, I created this controller, I annotated it with @controller, which is itself meta-annotated with @component, and Spring will find any code that has @component on it relative to the root package. And this works just fine for the most common cases, and this is pretty easy to do, but it's not particularly dynamic. Like, what if I want to register more beans based on some implied behavior in a or some configuration in a file or in a database or whatever? Well, Spring Framework 7 brings this new thing called a bean registrar. So let's say I have a message runner, okay, and it'll implement application runner. Okay, inject that, and I want to have a field here. So I'll have a private final string message. I'll have the constructor, and we'll have two constructors. One is the default, and one will be with a parameter. So the default message will be world, and then otherwise it'll be that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have .println. I'll say hello. This dot. I should have called it name. Let's do that instead. Okay. There we are. Okay. So now I've got this runner. Let's say I want to register this once. Well, I can create a bean registrar. Okay, my message bean registrar implements bean registrar. Okay, add this here, add that there, and in order for this to work, I just import it just like I would any other Java config class in the entire ecosystem. Right? .class. Get rid of that. Good. And now I can programmatically, of course, this is not null. Not null, love that. Register bean. If I want to use the default constructor, or if I want to resolve the dependencies in the same way as I would if I had @component, I can just do register bean. But remember, I'm calling a function here. I can do a for loop, right? I can read data from a text file. I can do all sorts of things to create that dependency. If I want to override how that thing gets registered, I can register the message runner like this. I can say, do that, and here's a spec, and then the spec has a supplier, and then in the supplier, I create a function, and there I can define how to create the object. But again, I'm doing it functionally. I'm able to access other beans in the context as well, so maybe I want to call supplier context.bean.dataSource, dataSource.class. Now I have a database pointer, and I can use that, and blah, right? I can pass that in. This is dependency injection. In this case, it'll just be, parameters, I guess. Okay, I don't actually have a data source that I want to use, but I could. Okay, replace that, and voila. So now let's go ahead and run both. Okay. So I should have two different greeting messages: hello world, hello parameters, right? So I can functionally register these things, and you can see that for the common case of like, hey, I just want to register a bean. I could do a Java config method, create an @bean method and all that, but this is a lot nicer. Right, a lot more concise, and if I want to customize it, I can do this as well. And they both, again, I can do if else, I can do for loops, I can do all this kind of stuff. Okay, so now I've got an application. I think it's time to think about security and robustness and making it production worthy. So let's introduce some of the new features in Spring Security. Remember I said I was going to bring this back? Well, I wasn't kidding. Let's bring it back. And what I want to do is I want to create an application and lock it down. Okay, now we have very little time, so I'll go as fast as I can here. Whoop. Class security configuration. Now, what I need to do is I want to take the default configuration and enable, first I want to use a username. Let's see, it is a user, JDBC, that's what it is. Username, JDBC, user, something. Let me see here. There it is, I just saw it. JDBC user details manager, I think that's it. Okay. No, JDBC. Did I have to reload the Maven build? Haha. Okay. And this, of course, will require a data source. So that's going to load usernames and passwords from a database. I've got the users table here. This is not new in Spring Security or whatever, but it's there. Notice that I've got a user, James, and another one called Josh. I want to migrate the password on login. This is using an old encoding that's no longer valid. This is using the modern bcrypt encoding, but I want to migrate this. Obviously, the only time I can migrate a password is when the people log in. That's the only time I'll have a plain text password that I can then encode again in the new encoding. Otherwise, I'd have to decode the password, which is not cryptographically very easy to do, right? It's computationally very inefficient. You could do it with SHA, but you would need like more computers than exist on the planet to do something with like bcrypt, right? So instead, what I will do is use a new feature in this. I'll say update is true and return you, okay? And now I also want to customize the authorization. Now, normally in Spring Security, you'd set up a security filter chain, right? And you'd inject the HTTP security. And as soon as you do this, this is for authorization. As soon as you do that, you are undoing the defaults that Spring Boot gives you, which is very annoying, but it's been all or nothing. Well, in Spring Security 7, there's this nice capability where you can use customizers of HTTP security and inject the HTTP security object there. Actually, you don't inject it there, you do it here. So HTTP, and get rid of that. And now it's additive. So what I want to do is I want to add a few things to my security, but I don't want to get rid of the defaults. One thing I'm going to take advantage of is WebAuthn, right? Here, I'll just use passkeys. How many of you know what passkeys are? Or WebAuthn, right? Okay, well, you've probably been prompted by every website ever made to configure this before. Let's just say Øredev, who cares? And basically, it's more cryptographically secure, and it's also a better user experience. It's a rare win-win, okay? Another thing I want to do is enable one-time tokens. So one-time tokens, we'll say OTT.new token generation success handler. Now this is you've seen this before, right? You've got an endpoint. You want to send a message via some other channel out of band to allow the user to click on a link and they get logged in. So let's do that here. We'll say io.println, please go to HTTP localhost 8080 login OTT token equals, okay, one-time token dot get token value, okay. And what I want to do now is I want to also send a response, response dot get writer dot println, you've got console mail. Now here, I'm using the console as kind of like instead of sending an email, because I don't have time to set up email for you all, but you can imagine kind of how this would work, right? They click on a link in their email, and because they have access to their email, we assume they are who they say they are, okay? Here we go. So let's go ahead and see if all that works. Okay. Restart the application. So I've set up passkeys and I've set up one-time token. Oh, okay. It's saying I don't have this thing here, class not found. WebAuthn. Here's another nice thing that is in Spring Security and Spring Boot. We have a new starter just for WebAuthn. Add that in there. Reload. And sadness. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's the old habit. Don't call build. Okay. Okay, so now, localhost 8080, okay? It's asking me to log in as username and password. I can do this. Remember, I have a valid bcrypt password, but James does not. So I'm going to log in as James, and the password is PW. Don't tell anybody. Log in, okay? Refresh this. It's been re-encoded on migration. Nice. Let's log out again, okay? Log out. We're going to go here again to cats facts, okay? And I'm going to log in this time using a one-time token. I'll say Josh, hit send token, great. It says click on this link. I click on it, it's in my email, you can imagine. Go there, it says hey, input the token, great. Log in. There you go, right? So it called the downstream service, we got that result, nice. Now what about passkeys? Okay, well, again, incognito, log in. I don't have a passkey yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my passwords app on the Mac, go to passkeys, delete the existing passkey that I've got, okay? No, that's just a suggestion. We're going to go here. We're going to go to Josh, PW, and it's I'm going to go to the web authn register endpoint. I have no passkey yet. I'll say Øredev, okay, or MacBook Pro, whatever. Register, use the power of the external factor, in this case my biometrics, right? Now I've registered that. You can see it's registered in the operating system. Now I go over here again, incognito window, log in with a passkey, click on the button, use my biometric. Okay, so now I'm logged in again. So you can see I've got cat fact. Okay, so that's 3 different ways of connecting to my application and securing it. One of the new things in Spring Security 7 is multi-factor authentication. You might, for example, have some parts of your service that are just regular administrative consoles, but some that need you need stronger signals that the user is who they say they are. So you can say, I want to enable global multi-factor authentication. Now, if I go down here, I can say enable global multi-factor, okay? And it is authorities, and I can say factor, granted authority, password, and OTT, right? So I'm saying I want a password and a one-time token before I allow the user to log in, okay? So now I go over here, go back here, incognito window, log in, Josh, PW, great. Now it's asking me for a token, great. Now I've got console mail, go over here, click on this, okay. And, oops, wrong one, there you go. Paste that in, there you go. So now I'm logged in again. So it forced me to go through both flows, right? This is to ensure that I have a better, sort of stronger signal about the veracity of the user. So now I've got multi-factor auth, I've got security. I think it's time to take this thing to production. And in production, I want this to be as fast as possible, so I will use GraalVM. How many of you are using GraalVM? Native images. Oh, you guys. It's one of my favorite features. It's just so good. But the only problem with GraalVM is that it does take a little while to use, right? And so I get really bored very easily. And so I went and I asked the GraalVM team, because the compiler just takes forever. So I went and I asked the GraalVM team. I said, GraalVM team, please play elevator music during the native image compilation process, right? I don't like waiting. I get bored. I want to hear music. I said, I already hear elevator music in my head when I do these long-running compilations. I'd just like everybody else to hear it too. And I was waiting for them to add this. There's even a great response here. This is from Dr. Fabio Niepaus. He's one of my favorite doctors, along with doctors Hu, Strange, Seuss, Sire, Subramaniam, Dovolder, and Pollock, okay? And he said, thank you for the feature request, Josh. The problem is that with playing music during the compilation process is that it's just fixing the symptoms, and we've been and are still working on the cause, making GraalVM native images more efficient in terms of time, memory, and CPU consumption. Anyway, I have prototyped a --Josh long mode. So the way this would work is you click on this, and it would then show me in my Spring shirt, right? That's me. And then you run native image and it says music brought to you by Josh Long. So you would know what's happening. You can hear the music. You're like, who's doing this to me? Why me? Why now? Where's this music coming from you? Oh, it's music brought to you by Josh Long. So now you're calm like a cow, but you're still waiting, right? So you'd have the pixels, the ASCII art to look at, right? And I think this would be a great addition, but they haven't merged it yet. So my friend, Richard Fichtner, he had mercy on me about a year ago. He created a Maven plugin here called the music plugin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this music plugin. We'll add it to our build here. Go back here, pom.xml, and paste. Okay, and I'm just going to point this at version, I think it's 2.0 these days. Okay, and now I'll build a native image. Okay, and I'm going to do Maven skip test because I didn't write any tests. So native :compile. Oh, that's so sad. Did you hear that? What happened? Oh, I think I know what this is. Another nice feature in Spring is that we have code-generated AOT repositories now. So if this is not it, then I don't know what it is, and we'll just move on. I think that's it. Whatever. Does that work? Okay, that does work. Go over here. Wait, where's my console? Now, if you're using the Maven daemon, remember the Maven daemon evaluates whenever you've made a change to your code, and it reruns the build. So don't include this plugin because the music will just not stop all day. Don't ask me how we found that out. Okay, 38 seconds. Go to the target directory. du-hs, adoptions, that's the entire application, including the web server, the security, everything, and the JDK. Start the application up. Oh, this is a bug. We're also using Jackson 3 by default. I forgot about that. Again, not yet GA. So what I need to do is static class, hints, implements, runtime hints registrar. Add this. Hints.register reflection .register type class member .values. Okay, and then we need to import this runtime hints. This is a small thing that should get fixed. So import register import, I guess, runtime hints. Isn't that it? Yeah, there it is. Hints.class. Okay, take 7,502. Back here, RMRF adoption, target. Okay, here we are. And target. Okay, whatever, let's just do this. More good music. All right, it's so sad when it cuts off like that. Okay, target. This time for all the marbles, otherwise, meh. I give up. Whatever. All right, my friends, I have to add this file. These are all things that'll get sorted out in the versions in the final release as we come. My friends, look, we live in an amazing time. All sorts of new good stuff that'll make you more productive, more capable, more efficient, more scalable. Obviously, some rough patches. We'll get there. I thank you for your time. Who learned something new? Who had fun? Besides me, I had fun. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.